It's Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero at the back. Heung-min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where we have got an amazing game to dissect. 4-0 to the Spurs away to Villa. What a great thing to dissect tonight. And with me, I've got three fabulous guests. First of all, we're joined by Alan. Alan, I know you've just come off a stream. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, looking forward to the show. Thank you for having me back on. Looking forward to it. It's after a very positive 4-0 win for Spurs. The show I just did, we were talking about loads of different takes on people's performances still within a good win. So it will be good to see how everyone else's takes are on this game and just see if, what people are thinking about this Tottenham team moving forward for the next couple of games.
100%. I mean, the vibes are fully back in full gear. And I'm also joined by Russ. Russ, it's amazing to have you on the channel again. How are you?
Very good. Good golly, Miss Hollie. I'm absolutely brilliant. I've had the lurgy last week, so if I cough and splutter, I do apologise. But certainly the win at Villa was... I did think we'd win there, actually, and I'm not just saying that. There is documentary evidence somewhere on YouTube and podcasts. I was pretty confident we'd win, but I didn't think we'd win by 4 goals and in the manner that we did. So absolutely brilliant. Best performance of the season, probably in the game where we needed it most. So happy days.
Indeed, it's definitely come at the right time. And we're also joined by the amazing Josh, who's joining us live and direct from the pub once again. How are you, my friend?
Just off the side of the road. Really apologise, guys, by the way, if you can hear revving engines. A bit like Tottenham's performance yesterday. Absolutely brilliant. Doing really well. Thanks to getting me back on. And it's good to be back after a win and not a defeat like last time.
Oh, you're on mute, Hollie.
You can tell it's Monday, Jesus. You can tell that the mug I bought my mum definitely came in handy because it's now the lucky mug. So I hope everybody had an amazing Mother's Day, and obviously it came up trucks for Spurs as well. But we're going to dive straight into it. I want to say thank you to everybody that's joining in. Obviously, the good evening joke is really running wild at the moment. I'm loving it. So thank you very much. But we're going to dive straight in because Alan, I'm going to come to you first now. I think before this game, maybe apart from Russ, who thought we were going to win this one from the off, how did you kind of feel going into this one? Because for me, I was a little bit nervous with everything that was riding on it.
Yeah, for me, I thought it was going to be a very tough game. My prediction before the game happened was a 2-2 draw. I thought it was going to be both teams' high lines attack and cause problems, but I thought there was goals for both teams. So I wasn't completely set. There was a lot of people on my channel throughout the week. It was people started off really like, oh yeah, we're going to beat Villa. We're going to beat. As it got close to the game, everyone was like, oh, it's going to be tough. We're going to lose that. So you could see it was very anxious between through the fan base or the people I came in contact with. But rightfully so. I mean, Villa aren't a bad team this year. Unai Emery's done a fantastic job. He's brought them from fighting relegation with Steven Gerrard to obviously taking them to European football. And look where they are this season. They're in the hunt for top 4. So they're a very good team. They've got Ollie Watkins having an amazing season, the best I've ever seen him play. They've got a very good team. It looks like the European football might be catching up to them a bit. They might be starting to get tired, which is a benefit for us. We're not counting Man United. They're rubbish. We're not going to count them in this back and forth. But it's looking promising for Spurs, but rightfully so. I thought it could have gone either way, and it was going to be a very tough game. But as we'll discuss as the show goes on, it was anything but. It was a very good performance from Spurs.
That's the thing. It was an absolute contrast, wasn't it, Russ? I mean, I know you were slightly different in your thinking that we were going to go there and do it, but we needed to do it. And it was kind of nice that we actually went there and did. So for you, what was your kind of overall take of the game in general?
I thought the first half, I thought we were pretty decent the first half, apart from in that final third. It was the usual, sideways football and, the low block and, oh my goodness, it's a conundrum. Can we fix it? Recent history says it's going to be difficult. And then in the second half, it completely changed. I mean, I think we were shown a lot of respect by Villa, who went away from their formation and played, 5 at the back. But I think a lot of our players did their jobs really well on the Villa players, particularly, for example, for me, Destiny Udogie. I mean, he just shackled Leon Bailey, who can be a very, very tricky customer, as we all know. And I just thought that we were decent in the first half and really, 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 really decent. 4 relays for 4 goals in the second half. That is not to say that there aren't areas that I think we can improve on, and I'm sure we've all got our opinions, which is what these sort of shows like yours are all about. But overall, I think there were some shining stars. Brennan Johnson continues to get better and better. Timo Werner getting another goal. Concerned about Mickey van der Ven. I thought Romero, Neville calls him a walking yellow card. Well, the last one he got was in December, so we can get rid of that, can't we, that notion? I thought Vicario was pretty good. I thought Porro, to have him back in the team, just gives us confidence down that right-hand side. Even Biss, I thought, played better. Sarr, well, I think he's a superstar, and the cross proved it. And I think for such a young fella, he's just going to get better and better and better. And Madders, I thought, probably had his best game for us overall since he's come back from the injury. And anyone else I've forgotten, you weren't rubbish. It's just that, somebody else has got to speak, like Josh.
I think you're right. And in terms of, like I say, there were so many standout performances, and we've been wanting a game like this where we go and score this many goals. And Josh, for you, are you kind of on the same sentiment in terms of that's kind of what you wanted to see from Spurs?
Absolutely. I think we've all been kind of thinking this to ourselves and saying it on shows like this, that, we're just waiting for that one game where everything sort of clicks and we give a team a hiding, because that was, I think we can all agree that was coming. It was always going to be that one game at some point, whether it was this season or next season, where it does click and we go and beat a team comfortably. But to beat what is essentially our biggest rivals for that 4th spot, I think that is the battle that we're in. Guaranteeing yourself Champions League football, not having to rely on Arsenal to do well in the Champions League, Villa to win the Conference League, etc. It's a great position to be in, and I agree with everything that's just been said. I also want to throw in one more player that needs a shout out, which is Radu Dragusin, who came in. He had a lot of pace. I was a bit worried after his cameo against Everton, but it was only a cameo. He comes in as soon as Van der Ven goes off and we score all 4 goals, and he looked solid at the back. There was nothing that fazed him. He looked right at home. He looked like he'd been there, for a few years, not just for a few months. So, everyone to a man was a lot better. I thought, first half it was the same frustrating problems, and it was the same culprits that were frustrating things, the likes of Kulusevski, for example, who, I'm quite critical of him, but second half he turned it around, and he was a nuisance. But yeah, I echo the words that have just been said about Udogie and Sarr. They're just absolutely unbelievable players. Werner taking that goal like he's been scoring, for fun this season, which he hasn't. But if you look at the return, I think I've seen enough just from the last 2 games that would say 100% we need to take his buyout clause and get him in the summer. I think a happy and confident Werner, that's only a good thing going into this run of tough games. So yeah, I think it's absolutely massive. And now, of course, going within 2 points, and that game against Chelsea. Imagine it in the midst of Newcastle, Arsenal, and Man City and Liverpool. We've got this Chelsea away game. It has all of the kind of hallmarks of a Battle of the Bridge Mark II, but hopefully this time, we can show some more maturity, and this be the game that Tottenham, goes and gets a second win in 28, 29 years, whatever it is, at Stamford Bridge. And because we are in control of our own destiny. I heard Ollie Watkins say that, but so are we. So we've got to go and take Chelsea on, go and win there, make a real statement. And yeah, then it's going to come down to us to decide the title race as well.
Indeed. And I think that's the exciting thing. I think there's lots of people obviously saying in the chat that normally when there's something riding on it, Alan, we kind of buckle under the pressure. And lots of people are commenting on obviously the way that Villa played with 5 at the back. I know Russ has mentioned it, but For you, did you feel that the goals were coming? Because I felt that we started better than what we did against Palace. At Palace, I felt we were just passing the ball around for passing the ball around sake. But with this game, it almost felt that the goal was coming. We just needed to find that net, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, so the goal you can always say is coming with Spurs, because let's be honest, for not just with Ange, it was happening under Conte and that we seem to be a second half team. I'm not sure whether it's just in our DNA at the moment or whether it's something we're working on with whoever has been manager. But you know, you could say that you think the goals were coming. I think for the second half of that first half, I think Villa were the better team. They created more chances, but when we get into that half time, I mean, Ange normally transforms that team in the second half. And it wasn't just that I thought the goals were coming, because I just thought that when we got that ball and we started in the second half, we were an absolute different animal. We really were. People getting stuck in that press in the first half wasn't all together. It was a bit hit and miss. One person going. In the second half, everyone was pressing at the same time. We were cashing them high up the pitch. Like, it weren't easier for them to get out like it was in first half. And it was one of them where it just seemed like Ange got into him as like, I love Ange. I think he will be successful at Spurs if they back him. But I think he could do a bit more in the first half. Rather than be calm, I think he can fire something, because, you know, you can't always rely on the second half. But I think when he does get into a halftime, you see a switch on from Spurs, and it comes and look, people have already waxed lyrical. Sarr for me, I think he's a Sarr boy in the making. Literally, I really think he's that good. You know, if only our other wingers could cross like he did for that first goal, because what a cross, on the money. Yeah, if we had wingers that could cross like that on a daily basis, I think Spurs could be better off than what we are. I think once that first goal went in, I think you saw Villa deflated, and it just literally picked the Spurs, like everyone up in the Spurs kit. And yeah, we just pushed forward, and the writing was on the wall after that first goal.
It really was. And I'm glad you mentioned, obviously, that half-time talk, because I swear to God, Russ, Ange puts a rocket up the players' butts at half-time, because we did come out, and like Alan said, in terms of that first goal, that ball from Sarr was just exceptional.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, we all imagined what I'm sure a lot of us did anyway, what Conte used to say to them at half-time when we were usually a goal down. And somehow we scrape results occasionally in those bad old days, which they are now. I think Ange is the sort of bloke who would just look him straight in the eye and just say, mate, you're not doing your job properly. And remember what we spoke about, and that'd be it. I don't think there'd be any ranting and raving and teacups and, you know, Victoria sponge cake flying around the dressing room or whatever they have at half time. I just think he's got a persona and methodology that they all buy into. And, you know, you can have all the plans in the world, can't you? You know, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But when it doesn't go against you, or it does go against you in the first half, then it is down to the manager. That's what he's paid for, and the coaching staff, to make things happen in the second half. And as we've seen quite a lot of times in the last half a dozen games, this latest one with spectacular effect, we've managed to win games mostly that perhaps we should only have got a draw in. I'm talking Brentford, if you remember, at home. That's an example. So he's got us over the line. But this, you know, the stakes are high. Champions League football and everything that entails, and the achievement it would be for him and that squad of players. And we're only 7 months into his reign. I think it's proof what they're doing. You know, that they're taking notice of him, and half times are proving absolutely critical. And, you know, the positive thing maybe is we know that we've got that as a team in our armoury if it isn't going well in the first half. You know, that Ange can get things going. He's not always going to do it, of course, and we're going to have very different challenges against some of the bigger teams in the last few weeks of the season. But I just think the whole way he's running things, and the players have bought into it, the fans have bought into it, I think that we've got nothing but praise for him, that's for sure.
And I think that's the thing. I think every time that we have a bad result or things aren't necessarily going our way, I sometimes forget that we're only so many months into this project. It's actually crazy to think how much
Yeah.
Ange has managed to turn things around. And obviously, from that goal from Madders, Josh, and we talk about that quick turnaround, we obviously then see Brennan Johnson hit the back of the net. And for me, I think Brennan's has had a lot of stick in recent weeks. But do you think that can finally be over now? Do you think?
Well, it better be, because the reality is this: when Brennan Johnson's on the pitch, he gets a goal or an assist. Doesn't matter what his performance level is like. We are seeing time and time again, whether he's on the bench, whether he starts, he's impacting the game. And I must say, first half, I thought he was arguably our best player. He was taking people on, he was pulling out skills, and second half, the goal was testament to his work rate, and he deserved it. One thing that I want to mention is the fact that how many times have we seen Spurs not just score one, but score at least 2 goals in quick succession within 5-10 minutes? And that's a really good thing to see. I saw that in our last 6 games, correct me if I'm wrong, we scored twice in the first half, but 13 times in the second half, of which, of our last, I think, 9 results, or last 8 or 9 results, we've won 5. So I think we're heading in the right direction, and I think Brennan Johnson is part of this new system. I think he kind of embodies the need to be patient with this project a little bit, because I think now we're seeing with him and Werner, pure pace, pure energy, and everything that this system can be. I think, yes, the end product can improve, but I would actually argue that Brennan Johnson's ball delivery is far superior to Kulusevski's when it comes to actual crosses. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I think all we need now really is a top class striker in the summer who can put some of these chances away, complement Richarlison as well, because I think Richie is, again, let's not forget, he's I think if you go on the Premier League website and you look at the top scorers this season, he is in that top page with 10. But someone else that's going to come in and score even more than that, I think, will be in a really nice position. Also, I think Pedro Porro had a really good impact on the game coming back as well, and it shows how much we missed him as well.
No, I think you're correct in everything you said, and like you said with Pedro Porro, I mean, and I'll come to you for this one, because obviously seeing him back on that team sheet was like, oh yes. As much as Emerson's been okay at doing a job, and I think we kind of forget that all season he's been put in different positions at the back, and he's survived. But you can really see the difference between him and Pedro Porro, can't you?
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, I think, look, when we signed Porro, I was excited because we saw what he did in the Champions League when he played against us and all that. I think he's quality. He had a rough start, but we've seen this season what he brings to this team. People give him a hard go because they say he can't defend. He has mistakes in him, as does every defender, but I think his defensive game has improved very good this year. I think he's solid. Like I said, everyone has a lapse, but we saw yesterday Romero had a lapse in concentration, occasionally a Doji. Even Van de Ven has the odd occasion. Everyone does. But what he provides going forward, I mean, especially in the second half, he was getting forward. It wasn't just to coming inside and being that inverted fullback. I was also seeing him go on the outside as well, creating that overlap to allow more space. I think we could benefit with doing that a bit more, because when we have teams turning the opposite way, you saw Villa having to deal with the cutbacks and all that. They were all over the place defensively. It allows people more freedom. But his energy, getting forward, the fight, the passion, the desire, I think he's looked upon for his shortcomings to begin with in defensive thing. I think people hold him to account for that. But my God, you can see the complete and utter contrast from an Emerson Royale, who is decent defensively, but that can't offer the same going forward, compared to what Porro can do defensively and going forward. Makes us look more, there's much more balance to the team. As the attacking threat and defensive threat, we just look so much more sound with Porro, with Doji, fullback. And people will say this because they've played together more often than not, but there's a reason why they're the number 1 stars, because they're the best that we've got.
And I think that's the thing. I think now that we've kind of got that kind of back line, so to speak, when we're defending, it almost does fill you with a lot more confidence, and that can only come the more times they play with each other. But I think you're exactly right. The different levels between Emerson and Pedro Porro is something different. But Russ, it went from bad to worse for Villa because obviously McGinn decided to absolutely kebab Udogie in that second half. What did you kind of make of the challenge?
Didn't like it. I don't think he is a particularly dirty player, really, but it didn't look good. And the referee, some of the refereeing decisions across the Premier League, as we know, are baffling. What's going on? But this referee had no doubt, and VAR agreed with him. They checked it, and if you look at it, I mean, it looks even worse in slow motion, as they often do. But it was absolutely a red card for me. So, and they're going to miss him for 3 games. And this is another factor, Villa being our main rivals, if you like, for 4th. He's an integral player for them. So he's let his teammates down as well as himself. But he definitely deserved to go. And of course, once that happened, the aggression in midfield, the threat that he offers, the ability to get Villa by the scruff of the neck when they're under the cosh and drive things forward, it's all evaporated. And then we started to run riot. But we were winning anyway before that. We were 2 up, of course. But it makes it a little easier. But Villa fans would be very, very disappointed, I would have thought, in John McGinn, club captain. Not a good look.
No, it's really not. And I think the thing was as well, the fact that obviously he said that thing before the game and saying that this is an important game. And it feels like the occasion got a little bit too much for him, bless him, because obviously then he did go and do what he did. And obviously I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't say what I said, but when I did my match reaction, when I first saw it, I thought it was a yellow, and I thought the ref gave a red because he thought it was going to get overturned by VAR. But like you said, when you rewatch it, I don't know what went through my brain, to be honest, because it was pretty horrific the way that you could see the venom in his eyes when he went and did it. But luckily, Udogie obviously got away with it scot-free and not injured. So that was a great.
And you know what?
Can I jump in? Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to say, when you look at Doku's foul yesterday for Man City, in the dying moments, I mean, if that's not a red card, I don't know what is, let alone a penalty. So it's the inconsistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can I just jump in on that? I think one of the key things in this situation, with it being the Villa captain as well, and he's the one that's meant to be keeping the heads, and it was just petulance, wasn't it? It was just frustration at what had happened, because the reality is this: they had their first shot on target in the 85th minute. That was the only shot on target they had the whole game. Any chances or any time that they were the better team, it was all our own doing. It was our own mistakes. They didn't actually do anything. The only thing they had was a hit and hope ball for Ollie Watkins, which most of the time we dealt with. But I think this is where Spurs actually have the advantage in this top 4 battle, because even though we are generally a new team with a new manager and there's a lot of players that have come in, there are still plenty of bodies in that squad that have been here before, that have played these matches, been in these moments. And I think that's what's going to get us over the line, is actually, for such a young team, there is enough experience there, players that have played in the Champions League as well, for me, that shows that, we can learn from our past mistakes, because let's not forget, against Chelsea, we were kind of a bit like that, with some of our challenges. But I think that will get us over the line. That's where I think we have an advantage over Villa, because Villa haven't been in this position really before. Not since, I think, 92, 93, I want to say it was, when they finished second. That was the only time that, Villa have had, this kind of opportunity. And I know the Martin O'Neill days were good, but, for the captain to be doing that, I think that kind of sums it all up. And it's testament to how brilliant we were, because we forced that out of the one player who, for me, I would take him in a heartbeat at Spurs, McGinn, and I thought that he was the one Villa player that actually caused us a problem.
I think you're right. I think that's the thing. It was almost like the occasion, like you said, got too much for him. And like you said, maybe that is because now we've got these characters in this team that know how to keep their heads, which is funny, saying the least, because obviously we know Romero was a hothead, and now it seems with Mickey van der Ven next to him, we don't really see that so much anymore. I'm going to come to Alan and I'll come back to you, Josh. But Alan, I want to come to you because obviously Josh has mentioned the fact that obviously we managed to keep them at bay, not really have a shot. And I think for me, the biggest thing for that was how quiet Ollie Watkins was, and the fact that we managed to keep him under wraps. What do you think that kind of goes down to? Do you reckon it's Romero? Do you reckon it's Mickey van der Ven? Or do you think it's a big collective of the whole team that we kept our shape?
I think it was collective of both Romero and Van der Ven. But I would also say, I thought, as much as I've just praised him and I think he's having a good season, I thought Ollie Watkins was really poor yesterday. I think he was very indecisive. He wasn't his normal self. But could that be down to the whole fact that, defensively sound? Look, I like Romero. I think he's a very good defender. He's very I wouldn't say old school, but he's very in your face. I think Van der Ven compliments him so much. Literally. I think Romero's now come at the fact that if he knows things go wrong in front of him or he missed time tackle, you've got that person there who, not with just pace, but when he gets back, occasionally he has to lunge it it's timed, it's to perfection, but also he can take a ball off a person, bring it out and actually just set up and start a new period of play. I think it's a perfect combination. Now, are they still learning together? Yeah. Will they get better? Absolutely. I think another factor where we may get better with that is early on in the season, you had the defensive midfielder that will sit back, allow them to mop up when the fullbacks go forward. It hasn't been quite as much recently because we've had quite a few problems in midfield. I think maybe we'll get back to that and it will help May even more. Over the ball over the top did catch us out a couple of times in the game yesterday, but like I said, Ollie Watkins, for whatever reason, wasn't at it or made the wrong decision. But look, I'm hoping that Van der Ven injury isn't too long. I think it might be a week or two from what I saw reports, but you can never. This is Tottenham. Normally we say somebody's out for a week or two, and it turns out about a year's time we'll see him back. But look, it's one of them where I think even with I think it was Josh that said about Dragushin yesterday come in, very competent, very solid. It goes to show that we are doing the right thing in the profile of players coming to this team. It just means that he's had to adapt from Italy. I think Anshadi's just adapting to a new league. I think we'll see the best out of him. I'm more comfortable and more confident in my defence than I have been in the last 4 or 5 seasons, ever since obviously Jan and Toby. And it's a very good sign that Spurs, we're not just building or having these star players. We're building a team, a core, a backline, a midfield, and it can only get better from there. But Van der Ven and Romero complement each other so well, and there's a reason why. You can argue the fact that Van der Ven's probably could be in the team of the season because of how good he's been.
He's just been amazing. I would obviously give him my hamstrings, but I don't think they're long enough for his long legs. Bless him. But I do really hope Mickey van der Ven does. Obviously, it's not a long-term injury because I'm hoping it's not, but you never know. But Russ, obviously, I want to move on because the third goal came from the amazing Sonny. Now, we can all talk about Sonny for ages, but my words, he is really a star player for us, isn't he?
Yeah. And the way he finished, to be fair, he not had a sniff for most of the game. And there he is, sort of 9, 10, 14 yards out, whatever it was, centre of the goal. Never a doubt, was there? And he cut a frustrated figure, I felt, particularly in the second half, up until then. But once the space opens up, Sonny gets the ball, you find Sonny is going to score. And he did, and he is really an extraordinary world-class player for our football club. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He is truly world-class. He's a great, and he'll have his own statue outside when he's not playing for us anymore. I really do believe he's been that important for us. And 2 more years maybe, if we're lucky? I hope so, because I'd love to see him. I think we all would. Lift a trophy, get some success for all the brilliant football that he's played. I mean, I still think about the goal against Burnley, that incredible goal from last season, or was it the season before? It was in the new stadium anyway, when he just ran the length of the pitch and scored a goal. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And you do worry for him, though, when he doesn't get on the score sheet, but usually by hook or by crook, he nearly always does. And he did against Villa. The third one, of course, we knew it was all over. And soon after that, as I'm sure you're going to come on to, we got the fourth. But his contribution to the club is absolutely immense, I think, not only as a player, but I think apparently behind the scenes, he's the real nice guy, club captain, etc., etc. Fantastic.
He's got it all. He really has.
Well, he has, yes.
He really has. And that's the thing, like you say, we don't always get to see behind the scenes, but you can tell from what players, how highly they speak of him. You can tell that he really is the glue that's keeping this team. I know the vibes are good, but he does really keep this team together. And obviously, I think it was a crazy stat. Like, he's now the 5th top joint goal scorer at the club, which is incredible. Like the goals that we said, obviously the one against Burnley as well, that still, like you said, rings in my head of him taking on everyone in your nan, as I like to say, because it was incredible the way he went and did that. And I know that people have said in the chat, and I'm going to come to you for this one, Josh, because I know that Decky's your fave player, and I know you've mentioned him already tonight. But it was really those 3 goals. Decky was integral to all 3 of them, I think.
Absolutely. This is what happens when he takes the man on rather than just turning and passing it backwards. And funny, what happens when Kulusevski uses his right foot? Funnily enough, he has 2 feet. The times he has used his right foot this season, another example I think was Nottingham Forest, that good has come of it. Goals have come from it. So it's the one thing that has always baffled me about Kulusevski, because I believe he is a very, very good player. But my goodness, does it frustrate me when he doesn't use his right foot, because I remember his assist for Harry Kane when we won 3-2 at the Etihad. That was with his right foot. And it's quite clear for all of us to see that he can use it. And he's got, excuse me, choking on the thought of Kulusevski using his right foot. He's got quality. So, yeah, brilliant to see. And this is what happens when he's confident. I think that's the key thing, really. He's a confidence player. But when he gets his sort of tail up, as they say, he's in the right place at the right time, and he puts in good balls. And, that's what you want to see from Kulusevski, not some of the recent performances. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that we've missed going forward and attacking this season, has been actually Kulusevski at his best. And I think when Kulu is at his best, the whole team is a lot better as a result.
I think I agree with that in that kind of sense, in terms of, like you said, if he uses his right foot, if he decides to go on and try and beat players, you really see the best out of Decky. And I think the thing is, there is a lot of confidence players within our team. And one of those players, Alan, is obviously Werner. And once again, he's managed to get on the score sheet. I'm so pleased for him. What did you make of his goal?
So for me, when we signed Werner, I like on loan, I wasn't thrilled. I'll be honest. We've got obviously the Premier League to go by, and he really didn't hit home. It weren't, stuff like that. So I weren't up for it. I weren't feeling it. But I have to be honest, I've been pleasantly surprised. I think, there's been times where I know obviously he took his goal brilliantly. Literally, it weren't. I think the goal last week calmed him down. It was literally, he knew where the goal was. He opened his body up, opened his foot up, and literally just placed it in. It was like, it was a world-class goal for me. It really was. Didn't even have to look at it. It was a fantastic finish. I think what you've seen from Werner in this Tottenham team is that even when he's made the runs, he's not being used. I think there was a couple of games ago where he made the runs in and nobody was passing. It was quite evident that he was on there if they got the ball right, but they didn't do it. But he hasn't got in his own head. He hasn't let it get him down and all that. He's literally just, where I think at Chelsea, because there was so much pressure on him, I think it overwhelmed him at a young age. With Spurs, I think because you've got fans like me, it was like, I don't think it's the right fit. I don't think he's not got expectation on him. I think he can be just himself. Has he been perfect all the time? No player is. But what I've seen from him, the hard work, the energy, the pressing, like I said, making the runs, even when he's not that, he just gets his head down and does his business. He's added on the left wing when he's been there as well, going on the outside and crossing the ball in as well, doing what we've been wanting to do from the right-hand side as well. I think he's just, he's much better in the Spurs shirt than I gave him credit for. He's obviously better for me in snippets we've seen. He's better in the Spurs shirt than I think you could see him as a Chelsea player. I don't know if we're going to make it permanent, but I think if he continues on this, because it's now like 3 assists and 2 goals or 4 assists and 2 goals, that's not a bad return for the rest of the season. If we can keep up this run and get to like 10 goals, 15 assists and all that, then there's a conversation to be had that maybe he's the right fit for Spurs and he's the one we need on the left or right, or wherever we want to put him occasionally through the middle, because we know he can do that as well. So, I think the more it goes on with him, I'm seeing more positives than negatives, and I was the opposite way of thinking. So I'm happy to always say when I'm wrong, and at the moment, he's proven me wrong at the moment.
I think that's the thing. I think obviously it's a good idea the way you've looked at it in terms of the pressure element, because like you said, coming into Spurs, there isn't added pressure. But Russ, the fact that he came in January, the fact that he's had these assists, the fact that he's now picking up the goals, would you maybe make this a permanent deal in the summer, or are you kind of with Alan, maybe it's a little bit too soon to make that decision?
Yeah, I think I am with Alan, but I think that he's certainly further down the road to that conversation that Alan is perhaps alluding will happen at the end of the season. If he gets a winner against Arsenal, he's got a new contract, let's be honest. I would have started with Timo Werner at the weekend at Villa, because off the back of the goal, the improving confidence, all of the attributes that Alan and our fans know that he's got, including pace. And I would have put Brennan Johnson instead of Decky on the right. That's what I would have done. But what do I know? Because Decky stayed on and provided 3 crucial bits of involvement in the goals. But, you know, Ange is Ange, isn't he? But I really think that Timo Werner probably didn't feel comfortable at Chelsea. It is a funny club. It's an odd club. And we know that. And I think we're friendlier, and he probably understands the instructions a little clearer than perhaps he got at Chelsea. Not so many big-time Charlies at Tottenham as there was at Chelsea. And there's all sorts of reasons. He's a little bit older, but he's a German international. You know, I think for me right now, it would be 60-40 I'd keep him. Especially the money, what would it be? 15 million, is that right? Somewhere around there? I mean, if it's that sort of money, who do you get with those attributes? A European player for 15 million now. You know, that's another thing I'm sure Mr. Levy is thinking about.
And the thing is, he's already embedded into Spurs. So you've already
Yes.
got that kind of, you know what he's going to do. You know what he's like. You can coax him to the way you want to play. He knows Ange ball. So at the moment, you're kind of sat here thinking this probably could be the real kind of deal. I mean, Josh, are you kind of on the same sentiment?
I'm 100% all in for Timo Werner. I'm not 60-40. I think for £15 million, I think we can well and truly consider this in all but kind of the minor details, the same kind of structuring as the Pedro Porro deal and the Romero deal and the Kulusevski deal. I think we will see him here on a permanent basis. And I think that there's another crucial thing that we need to think about. You know, Manor Solomon, who we brought in for free, hasn't had a kick. He's been injured for the whole of the season. There's probably clubs willing to pay 5-10 million for Manor Solomon and take a punt. You can probably make some of that fee for Werner back and get rid of Solomon and still go and buy another player on the left in the summer to provide that extra competition, that perhaps longer term Son successor, which we need to start thinking about sooner rather than later, as heartbreaking as it is to say. But we also need to remember this. He is fighting for his future as a German international, the chance to play for his country at a home Euros. His form had been so poor. I mean, I think it was 2 goals in only 8 appearances, which isn't horrendous, but it's the fact that he's not getting the minutes because he's not been good, because his confidence was shot at Leipzig. And this is a guy that, you know, with a lot of turmoil in the German national team of late, all it takes is for one German striker or winger to find some form, and suddenly Werner finds himself out of the team. So I think he's probably also thinking this is probably his last opportunity to play at the Euros at the age of 28 now. And then if he can continue and have a good time at Spurs, you know, maybe he might be on the plane to the World Cup if they get there, and that probably would be his lot. So I think ask any international footballer if they had the chance to play in a home tournament. I think that might make, you know, that might be even more special than than the World Cup, and I think he's played at the World Cup. I want to say he's been in the squad at least. So yeah, for that price, I don't think you're going to get anyone else in Europe that can provide what he's providing, and this is only the start. I think what we're seeing is we've seen a player come in who was clearly shot of confidence, but also, he's still understanding and learning how to play this system, getting to gel with his new teammates. I think that one of the biggest criticisms I would have had of Werner in previous weeks is nothing to do with actually Werner himself, but it's actually more he makes these great runs and our players aren't finding him. Because I think we can't deny that every time he actually does dribble on the ball and he runs at someone, he looks dangerous. But there was a comment that was made earlier, I think, that sums it up in terms of the goal, which for me was the best finish of the lot. He didn't think, he just did, I think was what someone said in the comments, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that's when you've got a player building in confidence. So, and as Russ alluded to, in terms of the team selection, I'm completely with him. I would have probably done the same thing, because that thought of having, for the time being at least, Sonny, Brennan Johnson and Werner is just pure pace, pure energy. And that's, I see us being a really dangerous side, certainly for the remainder of the season and certainly next season, by just having raw pace in those attacking areas, which, it means that as well as struggling to break sides down, we have players who are confident and run at defenders, but also in those games where we do play teams like your Manchester Cities who are going to come at you, we've got a great counter-attacking team as well. So yeah, really pleased with Werner, and I think for that price tag, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And what price him taking down Chelsea at Stamford Bridge? Let's dream, babies. Let's dream.
Oh, that would be so great.
That'd be great. Oh, it would be brilliant.
It really would be. And I think that's the thing. So we've got these hard games coming up, and we'll probably allude on to that as well, because obviously we have got Fulham coming up next. And Alan, I'm going to come to you for this one. It is obviously away at the Cottage, again, but it's that one game before the big ones start coming up. So for you, it's definitely a no-brainer. We've got to win it, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't take maximum points, I think it undoes what we did to a point in this game. I mean, that run we've got coming up later on is like Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, put Chelsea in. That's 5 back-to-back games. It's not we get a break. It's such a hard run. I want to get points on the board now. I think if we get points on the board now and Aston Villa, buckle under the pressure, I think top 4 is ours, even with that hard run, because I think we can pick up points at some points, but it's not going to be as much as we are now. But yeah, look, Fulham dumped us out of the cup very unceremoniously earlier on in the season. We don't have the best record there. Like we drop points there. It's a bit hit and miss. Fulham are a team that can play really well. They have good patches of runs and fixtures. I remember a while ago they were just scoring for fun and beating teams 3-4-0 earlier on the season. I don't think it's like that now. They're a mid-table team, but they're very unpredictable at times in the way they play and the way they come out. So we're going there with a lot of confidence, beating Aston Villa, who are a very good team this season, 4-0. I want to see just obviously the same maturity. Earlier on in the season, I think we were a bit immature at times, a bit naive, and obviously we let situations get to us. The Chelsea game, for example, silliness like with Basuma at Luton and whatnot, silly red cards and getting a bit worked up. I think just go there, the same method that we did, start positively, focus on our game, don't let things get to us and all that, just play how we want to play. And I think the goals will come. I think we'll go on and beat Fulham, but if we don't, if it's a setback, then it will always be like you alluded to earlier, Hollie. As soon as the pressure's on Spurs, we tend to buckle. We got to start getting away from that, however we do it. And if it's people will say, "Oh, it's only Fulham," you can't say you're putting it to bed. But if we can do that when we know it's starting to get trickier and we've got the big games coming, if we can go into that building momentum, then that's starting to slowly put the Spursy thing to bed. And you can do it in more than one way. It doesn't just have to be you have to win a trophy, but it's a must-win game for Fulham. If this was a must-win game against Villa, Fulham is a must-win game also.
And I think that's the thing, like you said, I think Villa, I was nervous going into it because there was a lot riding on it in terms of where the table was. But Russ, I think in the same sentiment, this is just as important because it should be a game that we should be going and winning.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly believe we're a better football team than Aston Villa at this moment in time. We went there and we won 4-0. They've had a good season. If we win away at Villa, we can definitely win away at Fulham. And we kind of earn one for the cup. And, you know, Al's right. It's not been one of our happier hunting grounds. Funny enough, Villa Park has been over the years. But, you know, we've got a new manager, new philosophy. I think it is a must-win game. I think very much so. But if we've got our players available, playing the way that the manager wants them to, there's absolutely no reason this coming Saturday why we can't get 3 points. No reason at all. And we need to.
We do. And it's kind of like what Alan said, what you said, Russ. It kind of sets us up for this big run coming. And Josh, are you on the same thing? Obviously, if Mickey van der Ven isn't available, we kind of have seen what Dragosin can do. Would you say that he comes straight into the team if Mickey van der Ven's hamstrings aren't great?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, I think I'm kind of okay with that because our biggest battle against Fulham is it Rodrigo Muniz, I think he's called, the striker, who's in very good form at the minute. He's not particularly quick, but he's a big boy and he's good in the air and he's very physical. So having Romero and Dragosin is absolutely fine by my watch. I don't mean to be contradictory, but I seem to think other than that cup defeat, our record recently in the Premier League there is actually pretty good. I seem to recall we've won our last, unless I'm missing something here. But I keep thinking that it's usually a tough game, but we tend to win by at least a goal. I think it's like 1-0s here and there or 2-1s. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that we've won a good few there recently. Look, Fulham, I think that's the big thing. It's Fulham is unpredictable. They have absolutely given teams hidings at Craven Cottage this season. They tend to be really poor away. Fulham, for me, dare I say, were the worst performance or the worst side I've seen this season at play Spurs. Out of all the games that we've had this season, I think they put in the worst performance at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They put in a worse performance than Luton, a worse performance than Sheffield United, and even, I think, a worse performance than Burnley. But again, at the Cottage, it's slightly different. I don't think Marco Silva is a slouch at all. I think he's a very competent coach, and he's going to set that team up to do what we expect. They're going to probably sit back and try and hit long balls to Muniz and do probably kind of similar to what Villa tried to do. But yeah, it's about hoping that these players can gel and, like they did against Villa and keep it rolling. We've got a case. It's as simple as this. We need to absolutely 100% without a shadow of a doubt win every single game against the teams that are below us and let it be, and including Newcastle, and then our season will be defined on those games against the big six. So I think it's a game that I'm not particularly worried about because I have faith in this squad. I have faith in these players. But I think the big thing is, and I haven't checked the fixture list, I know it's a 5:30 kickoff, if I'm right in thinking, on the Saturday. So please someone jump in if they know this. But I think where Spurs buckle under the pressure is not when the pressure's really on so much, but more the sort of light pressure of the teams around us drop points. When teams around us drop points, Tottenham play afterwards, we always drop points. So it's those moments where we need to take advantage. So come the 5:30 kickoff, if any of the teams around us have dropped points, I want to see us be just as ruthless as we were against Aston Villa. And I fully believe that we can go and score, 2, 3, 4 goals potentially, if we carry that same spirit and attitude as we did against Villa.
That's the thing. I think for Villa, it was a real turning point in terms of, like we all kind of said, the way that we didn't let it get too much for us. We played our way, but like you said, I just hope, like you said, the fixture's a good time to play, and it's not the other teams that are going to cause us problems because we're too much thinking about them. But if we concentrate on us, play Ange ball, I think we'll be all right. But it was a great win and great to dissect with all of you. Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. It's been very, very lively. So thank you very, very much. If you haven't already, please subscribe, because obviously Hollie's Hotspurs is every Monday, and we do the Hotspur Huddle on a Wednesday where Wes gets out his tactical board. I'm not that very clever, so Wes is very good at doing all of that, so make sure you tune in for that one. We'll go around our table and say our goodbyes. So first of all, thank you to Alan for joining me tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Thanks for having me on, Hollie. Obviously, we'll get you back on my channel as and when you're available. Obviously, more than welcome to happy to come on anytime you need me. Thank you very much for inviting me on. People can find me. My channel is there. Well, I'm really bad at that. Anyway, you know where it is. Time added on. Just past 3K. Do a lot of Spurs content. Occasionally do a couple of rival watch-alongs as well, just to obviously see what we're up against and poke fun if people drop points. But yeah, pretty much do a show daily, talking Spurs, the latest obviously that's happening at Spurs, Premier League, talking Ange, talking to players, and anything Spurs related. So yeah, if you want to see what it's all about, come across and join us. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, and thank you. Obviously, great to meet you, Russ, and obviously I know Josh from Twitter, obviously talking Spurs on there, but obviously good to do a stream with you as well, Josh. Thanks for having me, Hollie.
No, thank you. Like I said, it's great to get everyone's opinions. So make sure you go check out Alan's channel, and also Russ. Thank you again so much for joining me. I was going to say, where can everybody find you?
Well, Nation Radio in the morning from 11 o'clock on the app, online, DAB, FM, Wales, Scotland, all over the place. And rival plug, last word on Spurs after the Fulham game. So I hope I'm going to be in a very happy mood. But well done on everything that you're doing. I see that you passed through a milestone followers the other day, Holes, didn't you? Yeah, which was amazing. So well done.
Thank you. The thing is, I know people say you shouldn't look towards milestones, but it's more the fact that I get to talk football with everyone. So yeah, I really appreciate everybody coming.
Well, you're brilliant at it, and thank you for having me on. And great to be on with Alan, Josh again, and thank you for the invite.
No, thank you. And also to Josh as well. It's amazing to have you on. The dedication to come on the show when you're in the pub as well. I rate it. So where can everybody find you?
At Josh Hughes TV, thanks once again for having me on. We won, I think, 7-3 today, and I scored twice. Well, technically 4, but 2 of them are a bit sus. Might have been own goals. Playing on the right, maybe I should start right wing for Spurs next week. No, thanks once again for having me on. Always a pleasure. This is the place to be on a Monday night after Spurs win, lose or draw.
Amazing. I love that. I might nick that, Josh. That sounded quite good, that end bit. So thank you. But again, thank you to everybody that's tuned in, that's going to rewatch this. I am trying really hard to put them on Spotify. But as we know, my brain falls to sleep at like 8 o'clock. So after the show. But like I say, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Hopefully next week we're talking about, obviously, a win once again against Fulham. But until next time, go on you Spurs.